Today's judgment on 2G was quite a shocker because I think almost everybody expected the major players like Mr. Raja and the MP Kanimoi to be convicted. I think, but I don't think we should give up hope because if you remember the very first time that a judgment was given in the Jessica Lal murder case, the judge actually said he actually freed up everybody. So the headline in those days used to be, nobody killed Jessica Lal. I think, let's just examine, the judge, of course, has made his point that the CBI, the prosecution, didn't make its case properly. And maybe, that's something which the government will have to look at in the appeals process. But I think we need to make a few points. Firstly, like the Congress party has argued that Mr. Raja's policy of what is called first come, first served. The first person who comes in gives an application, this person gets the license. So the Congress party has argued that first come, first served was the policy of the day. Now that itself is not quite true because Mr. Raja did this in 2008. But don't forget that in 2001, the government of India had licenses where they auctioned spectrum and they auctioned licenses for the fourth cellular license. And the pan-Indian bid at that point was 1,658 crores. So it's not true that FCFS was really the only policy here. And then we moved to 2007. In 2007, the TRAI actually muddied the waters by saying that, maybe it's a good idea not to auction the spectrum, because of what it called level playing field and stuff like that. So there was a little bit of a confusion in 2007, but let's just assume for the sake of argument that FCFS, first come, first served, was the law of the land there. Now what's interesting is that by October, when the licenses had to be given out, there were about 575 or 580 license applications. And at that point, the Prime Minister, the Law Minister and the Finance Minister had all said that the giving out those licenses at 1,658 crores isn't going to work. So the Prime Minister said, please look at auctioning. The Finance Minister said the same. The Law Minister said the same. But Mr. Raja said that, hey, I'm not going to do it. And he went ahead. And at that time, coalition politics prevented anybody from doing anything. But what else did Mr. Raja do? So within this first come, first served, it's very interesting. Assuming that for FCFS is the policy, so on September 24th or 25th, if I have that right, on September 24th or 25th in 2007, he said, I am going to accept applications for spectrum till October 1, 2007. By October 1, 2007, so they got about 575 or 580 applications there. In January 2008, on January 10, 2008, I think, the DOT, Mr. Raja's ministry, issued two press releases. The first one said, hey, we said that we're going to go by October 1 as a cutoff date, but we're actually going to make the cutoff date September 23rd. So it doesn't matter what, it does. So obviously out of those 575 applications, only a handful could be processed here. Then what Mr. Raja said was even worse. At 2:30 on January 10th, he came out with a press release which said, at 2:30 in the afternoon, he came out with a press release saying that in 1 hour from now, we're going to open the window and that window will close at 4:30. So we'll open that window for 1 hour. In that period, I suggest all of you put in your applications, submit your completed application with the bank drafts. Now, obviously, it meant that there were 122 licenses which were issued in that period, and obviously people who must have known in the past that this would happen. That's how they had their bank drafts ready. In fact, when the investigation was done, the CBI found, and this is there in the CAG report, the CBI found that a lot of these people had actually got these drafts made earlier on. In some cases, a few weeks ago. In some cases, a few months ago. So all of this pretty clearly proves that there was a scam going on. And then if you just wind back now to the TRAI, which I said that let's not auction it, let's go on first come first served basis. What the TRAI said was that we'll go on the first come first served basis, but we won't allow these people to resell the licenses for another 3 years. So the TRAI realized that there's a possibility of people flipping these licenses over for money, and they put a ban on it. Mr. Raja said no, that ban doesn't work, and he allowed people to resell. So within a few months of them getting a license from the government of India at around 1658 or 59 crore rupees, they resold it for 3 to 4 times that amount. So, there is pretty conclusive evidence to suggest that there was a huge scam. And I suppose now what the government has to do is that they have to actually prove the criminality to the court, which will look at this again. So I think they need to be very, very careful and do that very well. But prima facie, there is a case, you can make out a clear case of corruption, if you will. In fact, just to make a little point, that Mr. Raja gave these licenses for, at 1658 crores a piece. After the Raja scam, there were about 5 or 6 rounds of telecom licensing from starting from 2010 onwards. And the government of India got 3.6 lakh crore rupees in those licensing for telecom. So those licenses were worth a lot. Yeah. Just to end on a piece of good news, this is regardless of the bad news today. The piece of good news is that, one, because of the Raja scam, the government of India moved very decisively to auctions as the preferred mode of giving out licenses, not just for telecom, but for everything, coal, iron ore, everything. So I think that's a very big positive in terms of policy developments or a policy response to the Raja scam. I think the other very heartening piece of news is the Raja scam, by the way, is not the only one. In 2001 or 2, some companies also got a telecom license, by being favored at that time by the government of the day. And all these licenses also wound up. These companies who got favors from the government weren't able to run their businesses. And in the Raja case, all 122 licenses were in any case cancelled by the Supreme Court. So some good news coming out of it. And we have to hope that in the appeals process, the government can actually get today's verdict reversed. Thank you.